Don't drink that! The words rang in my ears, sharp and urgent, slicing through the laughter and clinking glasses around me. I froze, the champagne flute still in my hand, the bubbles rising like little sparks of celebration that suddenly felt dangerous. My heart thudded. I turned, confused, and there she was, just a waitress in her black uniform, balancing a tray, her eyes wide with fear, her voice trembling as though she had just seen a ghost. At first, everyone thought it was a joke. Some even laughed nervously, whispering, "What's she doing?" But I couldn't move. Her gaze was locked on me, not the glass, not the table, on me. And then, 6 minutes later, it happened. The music cut off with a screech of feedback, plates crashed to the floor, and screams erupted all at once. My engagement dinner, the happiest night of my life, turned into chaos no one saw coming. Before I continue, make sure you subscribe right now so you don't miss the next chapter, and drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I'd love to see who's with me on this journey. Now, let's go back to how it all began. It was supposed to be the most beautiful night of my life, the kind of night every girl dreams of when she's little, the flowers, the music, the smiling faces of family and friends, and of course, the man I had said yes to. His name was Daniel. He wasn't perfect, but in my eyes, he was good enough. Or so I thought. The hall was lit with golden chandeliers, soft light glowing against white tablecloths and roses that lined the tables. The smell of roasted chicken, garlic butter shrimp, and sweet chocolate cake filled the air. Everyone had come, my parents, my sister, friends from college, even people I hadn't seen in years. They hugged me, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "I'm so happy for you." It felt like love was all around me. But then, the old woman appeared. She wasn't invited. She wasn't dressed for a party either. Her gray hair was tied in a loose bun, her coat looked too big for her, and her shoes were worn out, almost falling apart. She walked slowly, leaning on a cane, and for some reason, nobody stopped her. She just drifted into the room like she belonged there, even though she didn't. I saw her standing in the corner at first, quiet, watching everything with eyes that looked tired but sharp, like she had lived 100 lives already. I remember wondering, who is she? Why is she here? Most people ignored her. Some frowned. One guest whispered, "She's probably homeless. Wrong place, wrong time." Others chuckled and shook their heads. But I didn't feel like laughing. Something in me told me to walk over. "Ma'am, are you lost?" I asked softly. She looked at me, and for a second, I felt like she saw right through me, through the dress, the makeup, the smile I had plastered on my face. Her voice was gentle but carried weight when she finally said, "I came here to warn you." My stomach dropped. A warning? About what? Before I could ask more, Daniel appeared at my side, his hand firm on my back, his smile wide as he said, "Honey, we should cut the cake soon. Everyone's waiting." He didn't even glance at the old woman. He didn't notice her at all. When I turned back, she was gone. I told myself I imagined it, that maybe I was stressed, maybe I was too emotional. After all, it was a big night. But her words stuck like glue in my mind. "I came here to warn you." The night went on. Speeches were made. Jokes were told. People clapped and cheered as Daniel kissed my hand in front of everyone. I tried to stay present, to enjoy it, but every time I lifted my glass, I hesitated. I kept thinking of that old woman. And then the waitress came. She couldn't have been older than 25, with brown hair tied in a ponytail, a tray in her hand, and sweat on her forehead like she had been running. She looked me straight in the eyes and whispered it, desperate, shaking. "Don't drink that." And in that moment, everything began to change. I didn't know if I should listen or laugh it off. My mother was watching. My father was raising his glass. Daniel was smiling, waiting for me to join the toast. The room was full of expectation. I felt trapped between two choices: follow the tradition or trust the fear in that girl's voice. But I didn't get to choose. Because 6 minutes later, the screaming started. The lights flickered, a glass shattered across the floor, and Daniel grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. People pushed their chairs back, some running, some crying. I didn't know what was happening, only that the world had turned upside down in the blink of an eye. And then, I saw her again. The old woman, standing in the chaos, calm as if she had been waiting for this exact moment. Her lips moved, but I couldn't hear the words over the screams. All I knew was this: everything was about to change. The room erupted like a storm tearing through a calm night. Chairs screeched against the polished floor, glasses shattered, and the sound of people shouting all at once made my head spin. My heart pounded so loud, I thought I could hear it echo over the panic. I couldn't make sense of anything. At one table, a child cried, clutching his mother's dress. Across the room, a man knocked over a bowl of salad as he tried to run for the exit. Some people were yelling Daniel's name, others shouted mine. And there, in the middle of it all, was the old woman, still calm, still steady, her cane tapping once against the floor as though she knew this was coming. Daniel grabbed my hand, his grip like iron. "We need to get out of here now," he said, his voice urgent, almost too sharp. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice trembling. He didn't answer. He just pulled me toward the back door, weaving through the chaos as though he had been preparing for this moment. My legs stumbled to keep up. My dress snagged on a chair, ripping at the hem, but I barely noticed. "Daniel, stop!" I cried, yanking my hand free. "I need to know what's going on." He turned, his jaw tight, his eyes cold in a way I had never seen before. "Trust me," he said. "Just move." But I didn't. Something inside me froze when I remembered the waitress's voice. "Don't drink that." I spun around, searching for her, desperate to understand. She stood near the bar, her tray abandoned, her hands covering her mouth. She looked terrified. Not of me, not of the chaos, but of something else. Something I hadn't seen yet. Then, through the sea of people, I caught sight of my father. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't running. He was sitting in his chair, his face pale, his hand gripping his chest. My mother knelt beside him, shaking him, crying out for help. "No!" I screamed, shoving past the crowd. My heels slipped on the spilled wine across the floor, but I didn't care. I pushed harder until I reached him. "Dad! Dad! Talk to me!" His eyes fluttered, his lips moving faintly, but no sound came. "Somebody call an ambulance!" my mother cried. I looked around desperately, but it seemed like no one was listening. They were too busy saving themselves, too busy panicking. My chest tightened, hot tears blurring my vision. And that's when the old woman appeared again, right beside me. She knelt with surprising strength for someone her age and whispered, "It begins with him." I wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, but her eyes silenced me. They weren't cruel. They weren't mocking. They were sad, deeply, heartbreakingly sad, like she already knew how this would end. Then she placed a hand on my father's forehead and whispered something I couldn't hear. His body trembled once, then went still. "Stop!" I shouted, grabbing her arm. "What did you do?" She looked at me, her voice steady. "I did what I could. But you need to listen, child. The danger is not behind you. It's beside you." My eyes darted to Daniel. For the first time, he wasn't looking at me. He wasn't looking at my father, or my mother, or the chaos around us. He was looking at the champagne flute still on the table, the one I hadn't drunk from. Before I could make sense of it, 2 waiters rushed forward, trying to calm the crowd. One shouted that help was on the way. Another guided people toward the exits. Slowly, the panic dulled to sobs and whispers, though the fear still hung heavy in the air. And for a brief moment, just a brief one, things felt quieter. My father had been lifted onto the floor, his head resting on a folded jacket, while my mother clung to his hand. The old woman stayed kneeling, her eyes closed, her lips moving silently like she was praying. The waitress stood frozen by the bar, her face pale as chalk. I wanted to breathe, to steady myself, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still wrong. That's when the lights flickered again, and then went out completely. The room plunged into darkness. Gasps and screams filled the air once more, chairs scraping as people stumbled blindly. My pulse raced, my hands trembling as I reached out for something, anything to hold on to. And then, in that suffocating dark, a voice cut through the air. Not Daniel's, not my mother's, not the old woman's. A man's voice, deep and unfamiliar. She wasn't supposed to know. The blackout swallowed everything. For a second, the only sound was the panicked breathing of 100 people trapped in a hall that suddenly felt too small. Then came the screams, sharp, desperate, clashing against one another. I couldn't see a thing. My hands groped at the air until they met the edge of a table, cold glasses rattling against my fingers. And then I heard it again. That voice. She wasn't supposed to know. The words floated through the dark, steady and certain, and my skin prickled with dread. It wasn't Daniel's voice. It wasn't my father's, or any guest I recognized. It was low, smooth, carrying a kind of authority that made everyone else fall silent for a moment. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice breaking. No answer. Only the shuffle of feet and whispers, people clinging to each other, some crying. Daniel's hand found my arm again. "Stay close to me," he said, his tone firm. Too firm. "What's happening?" I demanded, but before he could answer, the lights flickered back on. The hall came into view again, but it wasn't the same as before. Half the tables were overturned, food smeared across the floor, glasses shattered into a glittering mess. Some guests were crouched beneath tables, others were pressed against the walls, wide-eyed with fear. And in the middle of it all was the old woman. Standing tall this time, her cane pressed to the ground, her head tilted slightly upward, as if listening to something the rest of us couldn't hear. But the voice wasn't hers. The crowd parted slightly, and that's when I saw him. A man stood at the far end of the hall, near the doors. He was tall, dressed in a dark suit that looked too clean, too perfect, as if he hadn't moved through the chaos at all. His face was calm, almost bored, and his eyes locked on mine the moment I saw him. "You weren't supposed to listen to her," he said softly, though somehow his words carried across the room like he was standing right beside me. "You weren't supposed to doubt the glass." My breath caught. The champagne flute. Daniel shifted in front of me, as if trying to block the man's view. "You need to leave," Daniel said, his tone cold, commanding. But the man just smiled. "You're in no position to tell me what to do." Whispers broke out in the room. "Who is that?" "Does anyone know him? Was he invited?" My mother clutched my father's hand tighter, her eyes darting between the stranger and Daniel. She looked as confused as I felt. The old woman finally spoke, her voice shaking the silence like a bell. "You've come too soon." The man's smile faded. For the first time, his expression changed, tightened. "You should not be here," he said to her, his tone sharp. "Your part was finished long ago." The old woman didn't flinch. "I go where I'm needed." The tension in the room thickened. Even the guests who had been running for the exits stopped to watch. It was as if something invisible was holding us all in place, making it impossible to move, impossible to look away. I whispered, my throat dry. "Daniel." "Who is he?" Daniel didn't answer. His jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on the man in the suit. His hand tightened painfully around mine, and in that moment, I realized he wasn't protecting me. He was holding me in place. The man in the suit took a slow step forward, his shoes clicking against the tile. "She's not ready," he said, still staring at me. "And if she doesn't drink, none of this works." I froze. "What do you mean?" My voice shook. His eyes softened, not with kindness, but with pity. It was supposed to be easy. A toast, a sip, no questions asked. He tilted his head. But then she interfered. He nodded at the waitress. Her hands flew to her chest, her face pale. I didn't mean—" "You ruined everything," the man said, his voice dropping, heavy with menace. "Stop!" I shouted, stepping in front of her before I even thought about it. My legs trembled, but I stood tall. "Don't talk to her like that. She was only trying to help." The man's gaze sharpened, and for a second I thought I saw the faintest smirk tug at his lips. "Kindness," he murmured. "That will be her downfall." The old woman tapped her cane against the floor, the sound echoing unnaturally loud. "Enough." The man's head snapped toward her, his eyes narrowing. "You don't decide when this ends." The old woman met his stare without blinking. "Neither do you." For a moment, silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that made my ears ring. Then the sound of glass breaking split the air. I spun around and saw the champagne flute had fallen from the table on its own, shattering into pieces across the floor. The golden liquid spread like a stain, soaking into the white tablecloth. And from that puddle, something began to move. At first I thought it was just the bubbles fizzing, but then the liquid shifted, swirling, rising, like it was alive. Gasps and screams filled the room again. Someone shouted, "What is that?" The liquid formed into a shape, thin and twisted, like smoke made of gold. It reached upward, clawing at the air. The old woman's voice cut through the terror. "It's awake." My blood ran cold. The man in the suit smiled again, slow and satisfied. "Now," he said softly, "it begins." The golden shape writhed above the shattered glass, twisting and curling like smoke that didn't belong to this world. People stumbled back, some falling over chairs, their screams rising louder than the music had ever been. The chandelier light caught on the shifting form, making it glow brighter, almost too bright to look at. I couldn't move. My legs felt glued to the floor as I watched the liquid climb higher, reaching like hands clawing at the ceiling. It was alive. There was no other explanation. My mother shielded her face with her arms, crying out, "What is that thing?" The old woman answered, her voice steady though her eyes never left the golden figure. "It's the truth that was meant to stay hidden." Her words sent a chill down my spine. The man in the suit tilted his head as if admiring a masterpiece. His lips curled into a smile that didn't belong in a room filled with fear. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said softly, as though he was proud of what had just been unleashed. "Stop this!" I shouted, finding my voice through the panic. "Whatever this is, stop it." His eyes slid back to me, calm, unhurried. "I told you. This was never meant for you to see. All you had to do was drink, and it would have been clean. Quiet, unnoticed." He paused, his smile fading. "But now, it's too late." Daniel stepped in front of me, blocking my view of the man and the writhing golden shape. His voice was low, almost threatening. "Leave her alone." "Leave her alone?" The man chuckled under his breath. "You brought her here. Don't act like her savior now." The words cut through the noise like a knife. My heart skipped. I stared at Daniel, his shoulders tense, his body stiff. "What does he mean?" I whispered, my throat dry. Daniel didn't answer. He didn't even look at me. The golden shape above us suddenly split, tearing into 2, then 4, then more. Each piece stretched and thinned, like threads weaving themselves into something larger, something worse. "Everyone out!" one of the waiters shouted, his voice cracking with terror. He tried to herd people toward the doors, but the moment a guest touched the handle, it slammed shut on its own. Locked. Screams rose again. Hands banged against the doors. People pulled, shoved, but nothing gave. We were trapped. The old woman tapped her cane hard against the floor. "Listen to me," she commanded, her voice so strong it cut through the chaos. For a moment, the crowd fell quiet, eyes turning to her. "Stay away from the light. Don't let it touch you." "What happens if it does?" someone cried. Her answer was simple, chilling. "You don't come back." The golden threads shifted suddenly, lashing downward toward the guests. People ducked and scrambled, flipping chairs in their desperation. One thread brushed across the floor, and the polished wood blackened instantly, as though burned. I grabbed my mother's arm, pulling her and my father, still weak but breathing, closer to me. "Stay here," I shouted, though I had no idea if anywhere was safe. The waitress, the same girl who had warned me not to drink, was pressed against the wall, tears streaming down her face. She whispered over and over, "I didn't mean for this. I didn't mean for this." The man in the suit looked at her with disgust. "You should have kept your mouth shut." The old woman snapped her head toward him, her eyes flashing with anger. "And you should have kept your hunger buried." The golden threads whipped again, faster this time, and one sliced across a table, splitting it in half like it was made of paper. Gasps and shouts filled the room. Daniel finally grabbed my shoulders, his eyes fierce. "We have to move, now!" I pulled back, my voice shaking. "Not until you tell me what's going on." "This isn't the time," he snapped. "It's exactly the time," I screamed. "You know something. You've known this whole time. What is that thing?" His jaw clenched, his eyes darting to the man in the suit, then back to me. For the briefest moment, guilt flickered across his face. And then the golden shape lashed downward again. This time, it struck someone. A man I didn't know, a guest from Daniel's side of the family, wasn't fast enough. The thread wrapped around his arm before he could run. He screamed, a horrible sound that rattled in my bones. His body shimmered, glowing with the same golden light, and then he was gone. Not dead, not alive, just gone, like he had been erased from the room. The guests froze in horror, staring at the empty space where he had been. The old woman's voice broke the silence. "One by one, it will take them. Unless—" She turned to me, her gaze piercing. "Unless you decide." "Decide what?" I shouted, my chest heaving. Her words came slowly, deliberately. "To drink, or not to drink." The crowd gasped. All eyes turned to me. My knees weakened, my pulse hammering in my ears. Drink? The very thing she had warned me against? The thing the waitress had told me not to touch? The man in the suit smiled, satisfied. "Yes, drink, and it ends here. Refuse, and it consumes everything you love." My hands shook. My mother clung to my arm, whispering, "Don't do it, sweetheart." Daniel's voice, low and tense, cut in. "She has to." I whipped my head toward him. "What did you just say?" He didn't answer. He just stared at the shattered glass on the floor, his face pale, his eyes dark. The golden shape roared, a sound that wasn't sound at all but still rattled through the walls and into my bones. The choice pressed in on me, heavier than the fear, heavier than the chaos. And then, without warning, the chandelier above us shook violently before snapping free from its chain. It came crashing down toward the center of the room. The crash was deafening. The chandelier slammed into the center of the hall, shattering into thousands of glittering shards. The impact rattled the floor beneath our feet, sending plates and glasses tumbling from the tables. People screamed and dove to the ground as the massive light fixture exploded into twisted metal and broken crystal. For a second, the room was filled with blinding sparks as the last of the bulbs burst, sending trails of smoke into the air. and then came silence. I blinked through the haze, my heart pounding in my ears. My mother clung to my arm, trembling. My father groaned softly, still weak but alive. I reached down to him, whispering, "Hold on, Dad. Please hold on." When the smoke cleared, I saw it, something that made my stomach drop. The golden threads. They weren't destroyed. If anything, they seemed stronger. They wrapped themselves around the twisted metal of the chandelier, almost feeding off the destruction, glowing brighter with every second. The air hummed with energy, sharp and heavy, making the hairs on my arms stand up. The old woman stepped forward, planting her cane firmly on the ground. "It's feeding," she said grimly. "The more chaos, the more it grows." The man in the suit smiled faintly. "Exactly." People began sobbing openly, clutching each other, their eyes darting between me and the glowing threads. The unspoken question hung in the air. "What are you going to do?" Daniel pulled me close, his grip almost painful. "Listen to me. We don't have time. If you drink, it'll bind to you, not them. It'll stop." I stared at him, horrified. "You knew about this. You knew." His eyes flickered, his lips tightening. "I didn't want it to happen this way." My chest tightened. "You were going to let me drink it without telling me what it was?" His silence was my answer. The old woman's voice rose again, cutting through the thick fear in the air. "Child, don't let him decide for you. He made his choice long ago. This one is yours." The man in the suit took another step forward, his shoes crunching lightly over the broken glass. "She's wasting time. Every moment she delays, another one is taken." As if on cue, a golden thread lashed out, wrapping around a chair. A guest screamed as the light brushed his sleeve. In an instant, he vanished, gone, just like the man before him. The crowd wailed, "Stop it! Please, someone stop it!" I covered my ears, shaking my head. Tears burned my eyes. "I don't understand. Why me? Why does it want me?" The man's gaze softened, not kindly, but with a weight that made me feel even smaller. "Because you were chosen. You carry something inside you that the rest of them do not. This was always meant to happen here tonight." I shook my head furiously. "No, that's not true. This is just my engagement dinner. This was supposed to be a happy night." His smile twisted. "And it still can be, if you drink." The old woman struck the floor with her cane so hard the sound echoed like thunder. "Don't you dare," she growled. "That drink doesn't end it. It begins it." The guests gasped again. Some shouted, "Don't drink!" while others, desperate to save themselves, cried, "Do it! Just do it before it kills us all!" The room was tearing apart, not just from the golden threads, but from fear itself. I looked at Daniel, his face pale, his grip unrelenting. "Tell me the truth," I whispered. "Was this your plan all along?" His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw something break inside him. His jaw trembled, his voice low. "It's the only way. I didn't want you to know. I wanted you safe." "Safe?" I choked out. "You call this safe?" Another crash shook the hall as the golden threads whipped across the ceiling, tearing into the plaster. Dust rained down, and people screamed again. The old woman suddenly stepped closer to me, her weathered hand gripping my wrist. Her eyes, fierce and sad, locked on mine. "Listen, child, there's always another way. Don't let them trick you into thinking there's only one path." The man in the suit sneered, "Always meddling." She turned her gaze on him, unflinching. "And always will be." For a heartbeat, I was caught between them all. The man urging me to drink, Daniel pushing me toward it, the old woman pulling me away, the guests screaming for answers, my parents trembling behind me. The golden light pulsed again, brighter, hungrier. I felt my knees weaken, my vision blurred. The noise pressed in, louder and louder. And then, just when I thought I couldn't bear it anymore, a voice I hadn't heard in years rang out, strong and clear, above the chaos. "Step away from her." The crowd froze. I turned, my breath catching in my throat. Standing in the doorway, though it should have been locked, was a man I recognized instantly. His face older, his hair grayer, but his presence unmistakable. It was my brother. The brother who was supposed to be dead. For a moment, the chaos seemed to pause. The golden light still writhed above us, threads twisting and pulsing like veins alive with fire. But no one moved. No one spoke. All eyes turned to the doorway. And there he was. My brother. The brother we buried 3 years ago. "Michael," I whispered, my voice breaking. My knees nearly gave way, and my mother let out a sound I had never heard before, half sob, half gasp, as she pressed a hand to her mouth. "No," she whispered. "It can't be. It can't." But it was. Michael stood tall in the doorway, his frame leaner than I remembered, his face sharper. His hair, once dark, now streaked with gray at the temples. But it was him. His eyes, those same steady, protective eyes I had known all my life, were fixed on me. "I told you," the old woman murmured, her voice almost proud. "Not everything stays buried." The man in the suit, however, looked less surprised. He tilted his head slightly, his lips curling in faint amusement. "So, the prodigal returns. I wondered when you'd crawl back." Michael's gaze narrowed, his jaw tightening. "Stay away from her." The golden light pulsed harder at his words, lashing outward, striking the walls with crackling force. Guests shrieked, ducking for cover. Dust rained from the ceiling. But Michael didn't flinch. He stepped forward into the hall, his eyes never leaving the man in the suit. "Michael," I said again, louder this time, my voice shaking. "You're supposed to be dead. We buried you. I know," he interrupted gently, his eyes flicking to me, softening for just a moment. "And I'm sorry you had to believe that. But I couldn't tell you the truth then. It wasn't safe." My mind reeled. The floor felt like it was tilting beneath me. "What truth? What's happening?" The man in the suit chuckled, stepping closer to the glowing threads. "Go on, Michael. Tell her. Tell her how much blood was spilled to keep her from finding out." My stomach twisted. I shook my head. "What is he talking about?" Michael's expression hardened, his voice steady. "He's talking about the pact." The old woman tapped her cane against the floor. "So, it's time." A wave of gasps rippled through the guests. Some clutched one another. Others sobbed openly, whispering prayers under their breath. "What pact?" I demanded, my voice cracking. Michael looked at me, his eyes full of regret. "Years ago, long before you were born, our family made a deal. A deal with him." He nodded at the man in the suit. "A promise that every generation, one child would be offered." My heart stopped. My throat went dry. "Offered for what?" The man's smile spread, slow and cruel. "For me." "No." My mother's voice cut through, trembling but fierce. Tears streaked her face, but her hands were fists at her side. "We swore we would never tell her, never let her carry that burden." Michael's eyes darkened. And look where that silence got us. Right back here, with her life on the line. Daniel's grip on me tightened, his voice low. "You were always going to find out eventually." I ripped my arm from his hold, my chest heaving. "You knew too? You all knew?" Silence answered me. Silence and guilt in every face I looked at. The golden thread slashed downward again, ripping into the floorboards. The energy grew louder, humming like a storm that was about to break. Michael stepped forward, his voice steady, commanding. "But here's the part they didn't tell you. The pact can be broken. It doesn't have to end with you. The man in the suit sneered. Broken? You've tried that before. You failed. That's why you ran, isn't it? Why everyone thought you were dead. Michael's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. The old woman moved closer, her eyes sharp. He's right. You can break it, but it requires more than courage. It requires sacrifice. My chest tightened. What kind of sacrifice? Her gaze locked on mine, unflinching. The kind that takes everything. The guests stirred restlessly, whispering in terror. My mother shook her head, crying harder. No, don't listen. We can't lose another child. We already lost one. Michael's voice softened. You didn't lose me, Mom. Not really. I left because I had to prepare for this moment. He looked at me again, his eyes full of something that felt both like warning and love. I came back for her. The golden light roared suddenly, louder than before, as if it sensed the shift in the room. The chandelier's wreckage trembled on the floor, rattling as the glowing threads coiled tighter, feeding, growing. And then the man in the suit's voice cut through the chaos, smooth and final. Enough stalling. She drinks. Now. The threads lashed downward, this time not at a guest, not at the walls, but straight toward me. Michael lunged forward, arms outstretched. Run! But I couldn't. My body froze, rooted to the floor as the golden light closed in. The golden threads slashed toward me with a speed and fury I couldn't process. My body refused to move. I was frozen, trapped between fear and disbelief. But Michael moved. He threw himself in front of me just as the light struck. The threads wrapped around him, glowing brighter, surging with heat and energy that made the air crackle. The sound it made wasn't like fire, or wind, or electricity. It was all of them at once, deafening and alive. Michael! I screamed, reaching out. His body convulsed, glowing as the threads tried to pull him in. But instead of vanishing, instead of being erased like the others, he held on. His hands gripped the golden light as though it were solid, his face contorted with pain, but his feet stayed rooted to the floor. The crowd gasped, some screaming, some crying, others too stunned to move. The man in the suit tilted his head, curiosity flashing in his eyes. Interesting, he murmured. You learned something after all. Michael growled through gritted teeth, his voice shaking but defiant. You're not taking her. The old woman's eyes widened, her cane pressing harder into the floor. He's resisting it. I didn't think anyone could. Daniel grabbed my arm, trying to pull me back. We need to get out now while he's holding it. But I yanked free. No, I'm not leaving him. Michael's eyes snapped to me, glowing faintly from the light wrapping around his body. Go, he shouted. If it binds to you, it's over. Tears streamed down my face as I shook my head furiously. I can't. I just got you back. The golden light surged again, wrapping tighter, forcing Michael to his knees. The floor beneath him cracked, smoke rising where the energy burned through the wood. His body trembled violently, every muscle straining. The man in the suit smirked. Noble, pointless but noble. The old woman snapped her gaze to him. If she chooses, it's not your victory. You know that. He ignored her, his eyes fixed on me. You see how much he suffers, don't you? One sip, and you can end it. One sip, and he lives. My throat tightened, my vision blurred. I looked at Michael, my brother, who had already sacrificed so much for me, and then at the shattered glass on the floor. The remnants of the drink still shimmered faintly in the golden puddle. I staggered toward it, my legs moving against my will, torn between saving him and obeying the warnings echoing in my head. Don't! The old woman barked, her voice like thunder. That drink is a chain, not freedom. Daniel's voice cut in sharply. If you love him, do it. Don't let him die for nothing. The room was a storm of voices, screams, cries, commands. My mother sobbing, my father too weak to move, the guests pressing themselves against the walls in terror. And then I heard Michael, his voice, hoarse but steady, cutting through all of it. "Don't drink." I froze, tears spilling down my cheeks. "But you'll die." His eyes locked on mine, fierce even as the light consumed him. "Better me than you." The golden threads surged again, pulling him upward, his feet lifting off the ground. The glow intensified, brighter and brighter, until I could barely see him through the light. "No!" I screamed, stumbling forward, my hand reaching for him. The old woman raised her cane, slamming it into the floor so hard the sound cracked like thunder. "Now, child, decide. Save yourself, or save him." The golden force roared, shaking the hall, rattling the very walls as the choice bore down on me like a weight too heavy to bear. And then, Michael's body twisted violently in the light, and with a cry that shook me to my core, he vanished. Gone. The golden threads recoiled, snapping back like a whip, leaving nothing behind but silence and the faint scent of smoke. I fell to my knees, my scream tearing through the air. "Michael!" The crowd sobbed. The old woman's face sank with sorrow, and the man in the suit finally broke into a wide, satisfied smile. "One piece removed," he said calmly. "Now it's your turn." And the golden light began to slither across the floor, straight toward me. The golden light crawled across the floor like a living serpent, sliding over broken glass and splintered wood, slithering straight for me. Each thread pulsed brighter as it drew closer, humming in the air with a sound that wasn't sound at all. It was pressure, like the weight of a storm pressing against my chest. I scrambled backward on my hands, my heart racing so hard I thought it might burst. My mother screamed my name. My father tried to rise but collapsed back into her arms, too weak. The guests cowered against the walls, nobody daring to move. The old woman stepped in front of me, slamming her cane down hard enough to send a crack racing across the floor. The golden thread stopped for a moment, quivering, like a predator sizing up another predator. "You've taken enough," she said, her voice low and steady. "Leave her." The man in the suit laughed softly, his hands folded behind his back like this was all a performance he had rehearsed 1,000 times. "You can't stop it. She is bound to it. The pact was written long before she breathed her first cry." I shook my head, choking on my own sobs. "Why me? Why my family? Why us?" His smile sharpened. "Because your bloodline promised it. Because your father's father, and his before him, offered it freely. They built their fortune on my favor. They built their lives on my gifts. And in return, I take one." His eyes glittered as they fixed on me. "Always one." Gasps filled the room. My mother's face crumpled, her sobs breaking into loud, shaking wails. "No, no, it wasn't supposed to be her." I whipped toward her, my heart stopping. "You knew?" Her eyes, red and swollen, met mine for only a second before she buried her face in her hands. I staggered to my feet, staring at them, at Daniel, at my parents, at all the faces I thought I could trust. "All of you? You knew? You were just going to let this happen?" Daniel stepped forward, his face pale, his jaw tight. "You don't understand. If you don't do it, if you don't drink, it won't stop. It will take everyone, your mother, your father, all of them. Don't you see? You're the only one who can save them." I shook my head violently, my voice breaking. "No, that's not saving them. That's sacrificing me." The golden light hissed, lashing out and striking the wall. The plaster blackened instantly, the air filling with the stench of smoke. Guests screamed again, clutching one another, their terror reaching a fever pitch. The old woman raised her cane, her eyes never leaving the writhing light. "There is always another way," she said firmly. "But it will take more than courage. It will take truth. And truth is the one thing this family has buried for too long." Daniel's voice rose, sharp and desperate. Don't listen to her. She doesn't care about you. She just wants to destroy what's left of us. I turned on him, my voice shaking but fierce. No, Daniel. You want me to drink. You wanted this all along. His lips parted, but he didn't deny it. His silence was louder than words. The golden threads shivered, sensing my hesitation, growing closer, wrapping around the fallen chandelier like snakes tightening around prey. The light swelled brighter, nearly blinding, until the whole hall glowed gold. And then, the wreckage of the chandelier shifted. Metal groaned, glass cracked. From within the tangled mess, a faint voice echoed, "Don't! Let it win." I froze. My heart skipped. That voice. "Michael," I whispered, my chest tightening. The golden light pulsed angrily, like it wanted to smother the sound. The old woman's eyes widened, her breath catching. "Impossible." Daniel's face drained of color. No, it can't be him." The man in the suit only smiled faintly, though for the first time, his eyes flickered with irritation. "Stubborn," he muttered, just like before. I stumbled closer, peering into the glowing wreckage. The light fought to conceal it, but through the shards of broken crystal, I saw him, Michael. His body was faint, flickering like he was half here, half gone, but his eyes were still his. He reached toward me, his hand trembling, his voice strained but strong enough to reach me. "You still have a choice." The golden force roared, shaking the room so hard the tables overturned. People screamed, clutching each other, but I couldn't look away from him. My brother, still here, still fighting. The man in the suit's voice rose above the chaos, sharp and commanding. "Drink now, or I erase him forever." The golden threads lashed downward again, this time wrapping fully around Michael's fading form. His body convulsed, his face twisted in pain. And I knew, in that moment, that whatever decision I made, drink, refuse, or fight, it would cost me something I could never get back. I reached out my trembling hand toward him, and the golden light struck. The golden strike exploded with such force that the windows shattered, spraying shards across the floor. The blast of light blinded me, white-hot and searing, and the sound, like thunder ripping the earth in half, rattled every bone in my body. I was thrown backward, slamming into a toppled chair. My ears rang, my vision blurred. For a moment, all I could hear was my heartbeat, hammering like a drum in my chest. And then, the screaming. Guests scrambled toward the exits, some falling, others clawing to get out. My mother clutched my father, both of them sobbing openly. The old woman held her cane planted firmly into the floor, standing her ground. The man in the suit simply stood there, hands clasped behind his back, calm in the middle of chaos. And in the center of it all, Michael. He hadn't vanished. He was still there, caught in the web of golden threads. His body glowed faintly, flickering in and out like a failing light bulb. His face was twisted with pain, but his eyes locked on me. "Don't give in," he rasped. I crawled forward, glass cutting into my hands and knees. "Michael, hold on, please, hold on." The man in the suit's voice rang clear, sharp as a blade. "He is nothing but a shadow, a fragment, and I can snuff him out with a single thought." The threads tightened around Michael, pulling at him like they were trying to rip him apart. He cried out, the sound tearing through me like knives. "Stop it!" I screamed, my voice raw. "Stop hurting him!" The man's smile returned. "Then drink." I froze. My eyes darted to the shattered glass on the floor, still faintly glowing with that same golden shimmer. The drink that had started all of this. My stomach twisted. If I drank, would it save him? Or would it destroy me? The old woman slammed her cane against the ground again, her voice sharp. "Child, listen. If you drink, you bind yourself forever. You cannot save him that way. You'll only take his place." Daniel's voice cut in, louder, desperate. Don't listen to her. If you don't drink, we all die. Do you want their blood on your hands? Your family's? Mine? I spun toward him, fury rising in my chest. You knew about this pact, didn't you? You knew what I was walking into. He faltered, but then his jaw tightened. I did it to protect you. Protect me? My voice cracked with disbelief. By lying to me? By letting me be led to slaughter? His silence said everything. Michael's voice rose again, hoarse but fierce. He's not your protector. He's the offering's keeper. His job is to deliver you. The room went still. My chest tightened. The air sucked from my lungs. I looked at Daniel, horror crawling over me. Is that true? His lips parted, but he didn't answer fast enough. The man in the suit chuckled darkly. At last, the truth surfaces. The old woman turned to me, her face grim. You see now, the chain doesn't just bind your family, it binds those around you. He was chosen to ensure you fulfill it. I staggered back, my heart shattering, my mind refusing to believe. Daniel, tell me it isn't true. His face twisted, pained. He stepped toward me, his hand reaching out. I swear to you, I love you, more than anything. That part is real. I didn't choose this. I was born into it. I jerked away from his hand, tears burning my eyes. You were supposed to protect me, not deliver me to him. The golden threads flared brighter, pulling tighter around Michael. His body flickered harder, his voice breaking with every word. Don't let his lies bind you. Fight it. The man in the suit's voice boomed, shaking the hall. Enough! The golden force erupted outward, striking the ceiling, ripping plaster and wood beams loose. Dust filled the air, choking, blinding. Screams erupted again as chunks of debris fell onto tables, shattering what little order remained. And then, the golden light lunged, wrapping around my arm. The heat seared into my skin instantly, burning so hot I thought my flesh would melt. I screamed, thrashing, trying to pull away, but the threads held fast. My body was dragged forward across the floor, closer to the shattered drink. No! Michael's voice thundered, louder than before, filled with a force that didn't seem possible. His fading form flared, surging with light of its own. The man in the suit's smile faltered for the first time. Impossible. The old woman's eyes widened. He's channeling it back. The golden light strained between me and Michael, one side trying to pull me in, the other side fighting to shield me. My body was caught in the middle, tearing in two directions, every nerve screaming with pain. Hold on, Emily, Michael shouted, his voice shaking the hall. I won't let it take you. The pressure built, louder, brighter, until the room was nothing but golden fire and white noise. And then, the light exploded. The explosion ripped through the hall like a tidal wave. Golden fire shot upward, tearing straight through the ceiling and into the night sky, a beam so bright it turned midnight into noon. The shockwave hurled tables and chairs across the room. Glass shattered into a rain of diamonds, and screams filled the air as people covered their heads and dove for the floor. I was thrown back hard, the breath knocked from my lungs as I slammed into the far wall. My ears rang, my skin burned, and my vision blurred. But I was alive. Somehow, I was alive. Smoke and dust thickened the air, making it hard to see. I coughed, pushing myself up, my hands trembling. The golden threads had vanished. For the first time since the chaos began, the air was clear of their shimmer. But Michael, I cried, stumbling over wreckage, my voice breaking. Through the smoke, I saw him. He was kneeling amid the wreckage of the chandelier, his body glowing faintly like dying embers. He was alive, but barely. His chest heaved with ragged breaths, and his hands shook as he braced himself on the floor. I dropped to my knees beside him, tears flooding my eyes. You're here. You're still here. He looked up at me, his face pale but his eyes steady. I told you. I wasn't leaving you. I clutched his hand, gripping it like it was the only thing tethering me to the world. You can't keep doing this. It's killing you. He gave a weak smile. Better me than you. Before I could respond, a low, dark chuckle echoed through the ruined hall. I turned. The man in the suit still stood, completely untouched by the destruction. His pristine black shoes rested on shattered glass as though it were soft carpet. His suit was immaculate, his expression calm, though now, for the first time, there was a flicker of something else in his eyes. Annoyance. You think you've bought yourself something, he said softly, his voice carrying through the broken hall. Time. Freedom. Defiance. His eyes glowed faintly gold. But you've bought nothing. The pact remains. Daniel staggered forward from the dust, his face pale, his shirt torn. She can still drink. We can still fix this. My heart dropped. I stared at him, disbelief and rage crashing through me. You're still saying that? After everything? His voice cracked with desperation. It's the only way to save us all. Michael's grip on my hand tightened weakly. No, don't listen. He's trying to finish what he was born to do. Daniel's face twisted with pain. I never wanted this. Do you think I liked growing up knowing my role? Do you think I wanted to be the one to hand you over? I love you, Emily. But if you don't drink, everyone dies. Love? I spat the word like poison. You call that love? Love doesn't betray. Love doesn't lead someone to slaughter. His expression cracked, anguish spreading across his face. I would give my life to change this, but I can't. I don't get to choose, neither do you. The man in the suit smiled faintly. At last, some truth. The old woman stepped closer, her cane striking the floor with sharp force. He's wrong, child. You always have a choice. The pact holds power only because your family believes it must. Break that belief, and you break its chains. The man's smile widened. Ah, the witch speaks, always whispering poison. Tell me, how many children did you watch vanish before you gave up your own? Her lips pressed into a tight line, but her eyes burned with fury. The guests who had remained huddled at the edges of the room sobbed and whispered, terrified. Some stared at me with pleading eyes, as though I was the only one who could end this. Others avoided my gaze entirely, too consumed by their own fear. The silence grew heavy. My mother finally broke it, her voice trembling. Emily, if drinking it saves everyone else, maybe. My chest caved in. Mom, you're asking me to die. Tears streamed down her face as she shook her head violently. No, I don't want to lose you. Her voice cracked. I can't watch everyone else die either. I don't know what to do. The golden glow began to shimmer again, threads crawling along the floor, drawn to me like moths to flame. The man in the suit extended a hand toward me, his voice smooth, calm, certain. End this. One sip, and the suffering stops. Your brother rests. Your family lives. Your people survive. This is the mercy I offer. Michael's voice rasped, sharp with warning. It's a lie. If you drink, you're his. Forever. Daniel stepped closer, his hand outstretched, his voice breaking. Please, Emily, please. Don't let us all die. The old woman slammed her cane again. Choose the chains, or break them. The golden light surged upward, the air thick with heat and power, pressing on my skin, my chest, my mind. My knees buckled under the weight of it. I looked at my brother, at Daniel, at the man in the suit, at the terrified faces of the guests. My heart pounded as the truth settled in me like fire. No matter what choice I made, something would shatter. The light roared again, surrounding me, pressing closer and closer. And then the floor beneath us cracked open with a deafening boom. The hall shook violently, the ground splitting in jagged lines. Dust and fire erupted upward, swallowing tables and chandeliers. Guests screamed as they stumbled, grabbing at anything to hold on to. The earth itself was breaking apart. And from the chasm rising beneath the golden glow, something began to crawl out. The floor split wide, a jagged mouth tearing open in the middle of the hall. The golden threads whipped downward, surging into the gap as though feeding something deep below. Heat poured out of the fissure, a suffocating wave that made the chandelier's wreckage glow red and the air sting in my throat. Guests shrieked, scrambling to the edges of the room, their prayers and cries swallowed by the roar that rose from the chasm. And then, something moved inside it. At first, I thought it was smoke, rising in thick coils. But then, the smoke shifted, solidifying into a claw, black as obsidian, etched with glowing golden veins. The hand gripped the edge of the fissure, dragging something massive upward. I stumbled back, my heart hammering in my ears. What? What is that? The man in the suit's smile widened, calm and cruel. The collector. Another hand burst through, claws tearing grooves into the floor, and then it came fully into view, a creature taller than the ceiling, hunched and skeletal, its body woven from both shadow and gold. Its face was no face at all, just a gaping hole of light, where whispers poured out like wind through a graveyard. The guests screamed, some fainting, some frozen in terror. My mother clung to my father, both sobbing uncontrollably. The old woman's face went pale. She tightened her grip on her cane, whispering under her breath, "It's not supposed to be here. It's never supposed to cross over." Michael's body glowed faintly as he forced himself upright, clutching my shoulder for balance. His voice was hoarse, but sharp. "He's summoning it to finish the pact. That thing, it takes what's left when the offering refuses." The golden light pulsed violently, feeding into the creature's chest. It straightened, its movements jerky, bones snapping into place as it grew taller, stronger. The roar that erupted from its hollow face shook the walls until pieces of plaster and beams crashed down around us. Daniel grabbed my arm suddenly, pulling me close. His face was streaked with dust and blood, his eyes wild. "This is what happens if you don't drink. Look at it. It'll kill us all." I shoved him back, my voice shaking. "You knew this could happen and you still wanted me to drink?" He flinched, but his jaw set stubbornly. "I wanted you alive. I wanted us alive." Michael pushed himself between us, his voice sharp. "Alive as a prisoner isn't alive." The man in the suit finally stepped closer, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. "You see the truth now. The pact is not suggestion, it is law. If she drinks, the collector returns below, sated. If she resists, it takes everything." The old woman's eyes snapped to me, fierce despite her shaking hands. "Don't believe him. His law only stands if you honor it. Break it, and the chain shatters." The collector's claw slammed into the floor, inches from me. The impact shook me off my feet, sending me sprawling onto the broken glass. The heat of its presence scorched my skin, my chest heaving as I looked up at its hollow, glowing face. From inside that gaping void, I heard a sound. Voices, hundreds of them, whispering, screaming, pleading. My blood ran cold as realization struck. "Those are the others," I whispered, trembling. "The ones who drank, or were taken." Michael's grip on me tightened. "Yes, and if you drink, you join them." The man in the suit's voice boomed over the noise, commanding, "Or she saves them all. One sip and it ends." The creature raised its hand, golden veins pulsing brighter. The whispers grew louder, screaming now, echoing through the hall like the cries of the damned. And then its claw came down, straight for me. Michael shoved me aside just as the ground split again, the claw slamming into the floor where I had been. Shards of stone and glass exploded into the air. I hit the ground hard, my breath knocked out, my vision swimming. Through the haze, I saw Michael stumble, the golden threads lashing out and wrapping around him again, dragging him closer to the collector's chest. "No!" I screamed, crawling toward him, my body shaking. Daniel caught my arm again, his voice ragged with desperation. "You can stop this, Emily. You're the only one who can stop this." The old woman's voice rose above the chaos, her eyes blazing. "You can stop it another way, but you must choose now. Break the pact or bind yourself to it." The collector roared again, pulling Michael higher into the air. His body flickered violently, his scream tearing through the hall as the golden light burned into him. The man in the suit extended his hand toward me once more, his voice velvet smooth. "One choice, child. Save him by surrendering yourself." And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. The collector wasn't here for my family. It was here for me. The collector loomed over me, its hollow face radiating golden fire, its claws wrapped around Michael like a cruel vice. His body flickered as though he were being pulled apart thread by thread, his scream tearing through me like glass. I staggered to my feet, chest heaving, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it would rip free from my ribs. My mind screamed at me to act, but every choice felt like stepping into a trap. The man in the suit stood calmly beside the chaos, his hands folded neatly behind his back, as though he were a conductor watching an orchestra obey his command. His voice slid into the air like silk. "You can end this now. One sip, and the creature returns to its depths. Your brother rests, your family lives, your guests survive. Refuse, and every last one of them dies screaming." The golden threads pulsed in agreement, searing brighter as Michael cried out again. Daniel clutched my arm, his eyes wild, his voice breaking. "Please, Emily, do it. Don't let them all die because of you." I ripped my arm free, my voice rising in fury. "Because of me? Or because of the pact you've all kept in secret for generations?" He flinched, guilt flashing across his face, but he didn't deny it. The old woman stepped forward, her cane striking the floor with a crack that echoed through the hall. Her voice was fierce, cutting through the noise. "Child, don't listen to them. The pact feeds on obedience. If you drink, you chain yourself to him forever. But if you resist, truly resist, you can break it." "How?" I shouted, desperation choking me. "Tell me how to fight something like this." Her eyes, sharp and unflinching, locked on mine. "With what your family abandoned long ago? Truth. Speak the truth aloud. Name the pact, reject it, and sever its claim." The man in the suit's smile faltered just slightly. "Careful, witch. You meddle where you should not." The collector roared, slamming Michael into the wall. His body flickered violently, his glow dimming. "Emily," he gasped, his voice hoarse but urgent. "Don't. Drink. End it." I stumbled forward, tears blurring my vision, my body trembling so hard I thought I might collapse. My hands balled into fists at my sides as I screamed into the chaos. "I reject it. This pact is not mine. My life is not his to take." The golden threads shuddered, flickering violently, their glow dimming for a split second. Gasps erupted from the guests. The old woman's eyes widened, a flicker of hope crossing her face. But the man in the suit snarled, his voice booming. "Enough!" The collector's claws slammed into the ground, sending shockwaves rippling through the hall. The threads tightened around Michael, pulling him higher, his body convulsing as he screamed. I cried out, reaching toward him. "Let him go." The man in the suit's voice dropped to a low, dangerous growl. "If you resist, he dies. If you drink, he lives. Choose." Daniel stepped in front of me again, his eyes burning with desperation. "Don't you see? It's the only way. If you love him, if you love any of us, you'll drink." I glared at him through my tears. "And if you ever loved me, Daniel, you'd never ask me to." his face twisted, breaking under the weight of my words. The old woman raised her cane, her voice sharp. "Say it again, child. Say it stronger." I turned back toward the golden blaze, the collector looming over me, its whispers gnawing at the edges of my mind. Fear clawed at me, but rage burned hotter. I screamed with every ounce of strength left in me. "I will not be bound. I am not yours. This ends with me." The threads shuddered violently, snapping like stretched cords breaking under too much strain. The collector's hollow face flared with blinding light, and a deafening roar shook the hall. Michael fell from its grip, crashing to the floor with a cry of pain. The guests gasped and sobbed, clinging to one another, staring in disbelief. But the man in the suit did not falter. His eyes glowed brighter, his voice thundering with fury. "You dare defy me? Then I will take everything." The golden threads erupted outward, not just toward me this time, but toward everyone in the hall. Screams tore through the room as they wrapped around guests, burning into their skin, dragging them toward the chasm. The old woman shouted, slamming her cane into the floor. "Hold fast! Don't let him break you!" Michael struggled to his knees, his body trembling, his glow flickering. His voice cracked but carried. "Emily, fight harder. He's weakening." But I couldn't think, couldn't breathe. The room was chaos, people screaming, being pulled toward the abyss, the collector growing taller, the man in the suit's power flooding every inch of space. And then, through the noise, one thought burned clear in my mind. If I didn't do something now, I would lose everyone. So I stepped forward, into the center of the golden blaze, and screamed again. But this time, not just rejection. I spoke the name I had never known I carried. The name buried in our bloodline, whispered in nightmares. The name of the pact itself. And the hall shook like the world was splitting apart. The moment the name left my lips, the world changed. The hall shook, as though an earthquake tore through its foundation. The golden threads recoiled, snapping back violently like a beast struck across the muzzle. The collector staggered, its hollow face blazing with wild, unstable light, its claws scraping against the broken floor. Screams filled the air as guests shielded their eyes. Some fell to their knees, clutching their ears, as if the sound of the name itself tore through their minds. Even Daniel collapsed, clutching his chest, his face twisted with pain. But the man in the suit? He froze. His perfect smile cracked. For the first time, true rage twisted his features. His eyes glowed brighter than ever as his voice roared like thunder. "Who told you that name?" The old woman's cane struck the floor, and she lifted her chin, her voice steady despite the chaos. "The truth cannot stay buried forever." The man's fury was a storm, his polished calm gone. He stepped forward, the golden threads writhing at his feet. "Do you have any idea what you've done, girl? That name is bound to me alone. You had no right to speak it." I staggered, my chest burning from the power that still rattled through me, but I held my ground. My voice was hoarse, broken, but strong enough to carry. "You have no right to me, to any of us. This ends here." The collector shrieked, a sound so inhuman it rattled the shattered chandeliers on the floor. It lashed out, claws smashing into the walls, pulling entire sections of the hall into rubble. Dust and stone crashed around us as it roared louder, the whispers from its hollow face turning into full screams, the voices of all who had been taken before. Michael, trembling and barely holding himself upright, forced his voice into the storm. "She's breaking it! Emily, keep going! Don't stop now!" The man in the suit's voice thundered over him. "If you break it, you doom them all! Every soul bound to the pact, gone forever!" My heart lurched. My eyes darted to the collector's screaming void, to the hundreds of voices trapped inside. Faces flickered in the golden light, twisted with fear and sorrow. Were they my ancestors? The ones taken in generations before me? The old woman's face hardened, her voice sharp. He lies. That's what he does. Don't falter. Daniel, still on his knees, looked up at me with tears streaming down his face. Emily, please. If you break it, you don't just lose us. You lose him too. He pointed weakly toward Michael. Your brother won't survive it. My chest clenched like a vice. My body trembled violently as I turned toward Michael, his fading form glowing weakly. He was already half gone, tethered to the golden blaze. If I finished this, if I shattered the pact, would it sever him too? Would breaking the chains free him, or erase him forever? Michael's gaze locked on mine, his voice raw but clear. Don't you dare stop for me. Don't you dare. Tears streamed down my face, hot and blinding. But if I lose you... You already lost me once, he said, his lips curving into the faintest smile. Don't let me be the reason he keeps winning. The collector's claws slammed down again, shattering what was left of the floor. The chasm beneath widened, glowing with molten light. Guests screamed as some slipped toward the abyss, clinging to broken tables and each other. The man in the suit spread his arms, golden fire erupting from his hands, his voice booming with fury. Choose! Bind yourself to me, or watch them all burn. My chest rose and fell in jagged sobs. My fists clenched, my voice trembling but growing stronger as I stepped toward the heart of the blaze. No, I said, my voice cracking. I won't bind myself, I won't drink, and I won't obey. The man snarled, his control fracturing. Then you destroy him. You destroy them all. I screamed back at him through the fire, through the roar, through my breaking heart. Then I'll destroy you first. The hall erupted as I shouted the name again, louder, fiercer, breaking with every syllable. The collector shrieked, convulsing violently as cracks spread through its body of shadow and gold. The man in the suit staggered back, fury blazing in his eyes. The golden blaze lashed at me like fire, burning my arms, but I didn't stop screaming the name, over and over, forcing it into the air. The pact was breaking. The collector split open at the chest, light pouring from the cracks. The voices inside rose in a chorus of screams and wails, shaking the foundations of the hall. And then Michael cried out, his body glowing brighter, brighter, until he was a beacon in the storm. His voice thundered through the chaos, cutting through everything else. Finish it! I screamed the name one last time, my throat tearing with the force. The collector shattered. Golden light exploded outward in every direction, flooding the hall with a brilliance so blinding it turned everything to white. For a heartbeat, there was silence. No screams, no roars, no whispers. And then, one by one, the voices stopped. The light faded, the dust settled, and I collapsed to my knees. When I opened my eyes, the hall was silent. The guests were gone. The collector was gone, and Michael was nowhere to be seen. The silence was the loudest thing I had ever heard. I sat on the wrecked floor of the hall, my hands shaking, my throat raw from screaming, my body scorched with burns where the golden fire had touched me. Dust floated in the air like ash after a funeral pyre. The guests were gone, tables overturned, chandeliers shattered. My engagement dinner was nothing but ruins and echoes. And Michael, my brother, was nowhere. Michael! I screamed into the emptiness, my voice cracking. Michael, answer me! Nothing, only silence. Tears blurred my vision. I crawled across the wreckage, pulling at shards of glass and broken wood as if he might be trapped beneath. My hands bled, but I didn't stop. No, you don't get to leave me again. You promised. The old woman's cane struck the ground softly. She stood a few feet away, her silver hair wild, her face pale but steady. He gave himself to the light. That was the price. I spun on her, rage burning hotter than my grief. You told me to break it. You told me this was the only way, and now he's... My voice broke, the words choking me. He's gone. Her eyes softened, though her voice stayed firm. He's free, better free than bound for eternity. Free. The word felt like a knife. My chest heaved, my whole body trembling as I clutched at the broken floor. Then why do I feel like I just killed him myself? The old woman's eyes lowered. For once, she had no answer. From the corner of the hall, a weak sound broke the silence. A cough. My head snapped up. Daniel. He sat slumped against a collapsed pillar, his face bruised and streaked with blood. His eyes found mine, wide and haunted. Emily, what did you do? I stumbled to my feet, my voice shaking with fury. I broke it. I ended it. No more sacrifices, no more secrets. His lips parted, trembling. You don't understand. That pact wasn't just about survival. It held something back. The old woman's head jerked toward him, her eyes sharp. What do you mean? Daniel coughed, his voice weak but urgent. It wasn't just to protect us from the collector. It was to keep something worse sealed. Without the pact. His body convulsed, his words breaking off into a gasp. My stomach twisted into ice. Daniel, what's worse than that? The old woman's face drained of color. Her cane slipped slightly as her voice dropped to a whisper. Oh no! 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 The floor beneath us trembled, faint at first, like the echo of distant thunder, then stronger, rattling the ruins around us. Cracks splintered through the ground, glowing faintly, not with gold this time, but with a deep, endless red. I staggered back, my heart hammering. What's happening? The old woman's eyes filled with dread. The pact didn't create the collector, it chained it, and beyond it, it chained what commanded it. The tremors grew violent, pieces of the ruined ceiling crashing down around us. Daniel tried to speak again, but blood spilled from his mouth. His body slumped sideways, lifeless. I screamed his name, but it was too late. The red glow spread faster, filling the cracks until the entire hall pulsed like a beating heart. Heat rose from below, far hotter than before, searing the air until I couldn't breathe. And then, voices. Not hundreds this time. Not even thousands. Millions. Whispers, groans, screams, laughter, all rolling together in a sound that made my skin crawl and my bones ache. The old woman grabbed my arm with surprising strength, her eyes blazing with terror. Child, listen to me. You ended one chain, but another has broken with it. What's coming is far older than the collector, far hungrier, and now it knows your name. The floor split wide, wider than before, a rift tearing through the ruins of the hall. The red glow surged upward like fire, and from it, shadows began to rise, taller, darker, their shapes shifting as though reality itself bent around them. I stumbled back, my breath shallow, my mind reeling. No, I can't. The old woman shook me hard, her voice sharp and desperate. You can, you must. The pact is broken, yes, but the story isn't over. You will need every ounce of strength, every lesson, every loss you've carried. Because this fight isn't for your family anymore. It's for everyone. The shadows climbed higher, their whispers piercing my skull. My legs shook, my throat burned, but I forced myself to stand. My brother was gone. Daniel was gone. My family broken. But if this thing wanted me, if it wanted the world, then it would have to face me first. The rift roared open, light and shadow pouring out, and I took a single step toward it. Then let it come.